Welcome back again, everyone, to Norton Man Reviews as we continue our special, however many days, however many episode long reviews or talking about the Onslaught storyline. So, I did X-Men number 50 a while ago, talking about Onslaught's Herald Post. That was kind of the first major thing involving him. And then I did Onslaught's first appearance where he revealed himself to Jean Grey. And so now we are going over to Uncanny X-Men, the unstoppable return of Juggernaut, with some fucking amazing art by Joe Mad. This is when, I think he was at, his best. In the issue of X-Men, I explained how Juggernaut was the first one to encounter Onslaught, but he couldn't remember it. He only said the name. He was beaten brutally, and someone who can beat up Juggernaut, that's saying something. And then Juggernaut had appeared to the X-Men, or it's Psylocke and Archangel in Colorado, and he's like, I got something to say, I got a big secret, and tell us, but then he couldn't say it. There was something in his mind, a mental block that prevented him. So he's like, I gotta go to the X-Men to have them help me. So this is the continuation of that. So his unstoppable return. Joe Mad, he was making a name for himself. I started noticing his art during the Age of Apocalypse storyline. He did some stuff before that in Uncanny X-Men, but his artwork just got increasingly better as it went. And this is one of my favorite issues artistically of his. I don't know why. I'll explain things as I go, but let's take a look. Like that. That's just a cool opening visual. Him coming out of the water, the shading and the reflective nature of the helmet, that look in his face, it's just really, really cool. Written by Scott Lobdell, Joe Mad art, Richard Starkings and Comicraft do the coloring. No, that's the lettering. Sorry. Steve Buccellato and Team Bucce does the colors. So, Dark Horizon. And as always, it has all sorts of, words on it explaining, this is Kane Marco, and he doesn't like things, and his behavior is antisocial. He is transformed by the Crimson Ruby of Setarok into an unstoppable force of nature called Juggernaut. Yeah, we know, but other people might, so they have to explain it every fucking time. So he's like, come on already, you losers. And I'm like, what, you talking to me? You talking to me, Juggernaut? He's like, yeah, I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. But he's waiting for somebody. And he's in the water, but he's at the X-Mansion. And he's waiting for Cyclops and Jean Grey to come home. He doesn't want to go to Charles Xavier, apparently. And so he's waiting for Jean Grey, the other telepath. The Jean Grey just went through some crazy shit here. So he's hanging out, and he says, I should just go up and bang on their door. But I'm not going to. He's like, what's with me? If I ever want something, I took it. Something way I plowed it over. I've not been afraid of anything in my whole life until Onslaught. So he goes and he's swimming underwater. And what is it about him that's got me so spooked? He's like, I can't remember. And then he notices a security camera from underground. And he's like, oh God, if they see me here, one of the fucking X-Men will come down here and it'll just make everything a pain in the ass. So before it hits me, he just whammo. I love smashing things. Okay, Kane. Do you have to tell us that? He's like, oh, I wish it was this easy to stop Onslaught, the thing that nearly killed me a while back. But that's why I'm here, to unlock the secret of Onslaught, a secret I got floating in my head. Good storytelling, awesome use of colors, good stuff going on. Several hundred yards away, so we're still there, but not there. We're at the X Mansion. It has to talk about Professor X, and he created the X-Men, blah, 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 blah. And here's Bishop, and he's working on something. He's repairing the mutant tracking Cerebro until it, after it overloaded. Oh, Rusty's here. What do you want, buddy? Okay. But as he's working on this, he says much of the technology in this device, the Cerebro device, is identical to that used from a century from now, because Bishop is from the future, right? And he's like, how is that possible? What could have happened that would stunt the development of technology to such an extreme degree? So, like, people are smart, and they advance technology really fast, especially nowadays. And now it just, like, stopped for about 100 years or so. Like, what would have happened to, cause such a thing? What disaster will occur? And then there's Gambit. And he's like, hey, you're looking for this? And these guys have not liked each other. There's, when he first showed up in X-Men number 8 by Jim Lee, he basically accused Gambit of betraying the X-Men. Around that time in Uncanny X-Men by Will Portasio, when Bishop was first introduced, and he was from the future, and he was, I don't know, he was a mutant, and he, like, worshipped the X-Men, the legends of the X-Men, but he talked about how there was a traitor in the X-Men myths. One of them was going to betray the rest and kill all of them. And the first one that was going to be killed was Professor Xavier. He was the first to go. And the last person that was seen alive was Gambit, I guess. So he is assuming that Gambit was the traitor. But this is the first time he calls him Remy, his first name. He's like, oh, you call me Remy, not Gambit, not LeBeau. For the first time since you dropped in the Century, you called me by my first name. You're trying to make me blush. He's like, I'm just happy. Bishop thought he was going insane. There's some stuff that happened with Age of Apocalypse. He had a lot of, like, those memories still stuck in his head. Mr. Sinister did something with him, and basically he was able to figure out he's not crazy after all. And Gambit's like, it's weird, huh, that Professor Xavier wasn't able to help you sort things out, and you had to go to Mr. Sinister. But before they can continue that conversation, the intruder alarm goes off, and it's basically, there's no trace of mutant activity, probably just some debris in the leg clogging the camera, and they're like, you want to go check it out? So Gambit and Bishop are going to go check out whatever's going on, but we know it's what has happened. So at that moment, he goes to the danger room, and Cyclops is in there, and he's training like he does. Old-fashioned training sessions, old-fashioned but deadly, and then something coming up behind him, and it explodes that he didn't even see coming, and it's Jean Grey. She's in the same outfit that she was wearing earlier in this this issue that we just looked through. It's hard to see here, but like that outfit, right? But it's all messed up. She says, we need to talk. So Cyclops says, like, okay, like, stop program. Tells the holodeck, basically, it's a danger room. But she's like, no, delay that command, continue the program. She just wanted to not be interrupted. She didn't want people to know that they were talking. And she says, I saw him, Onslaught. He spoke to me. He wanted me to join him. And he's like, how? Didn't say. The whole conversation took place on the psionic plane, and she remembers less and less as each moment passes. And he's like, okay, let's go to see the professor. Maybe he can. She's like, no, not yet, for whatever reason. I'll talk to him in the morning, I promise. I just need a little time to think, just a little time. So that's weird. Why doesn't she want to talk with Professor Xavier? This is a cool little upshot, like with the bottom of their feet right there. Almost see up her skirt. I like the shading on her calves right there. I wonder if the inker did that, or if he did, or if Joe Mad did that. I don't know. It's just a detail that I'd never think of. So back to Archangel and Psylocke. They're hanging out. They're the ones that Juggernaut burst in on. But they let's see, they're okay after he kind of fucked up their house, and they're trying to get a hold of the X-Men, but they can't. Having problems contacting the professor and warning them of Juggernaut, and can't contact him telepathically. But she's like, that might be due to because of the stupid fucking mark on my face and the Crimson Dawn shit that's really fucking boring and not, it makes me nearly as uninteresting as I used to be. So he says the screen's completely blank. It should have at least been rerouted through the on-site cerebral platform. So she's like, so something's wrong up there? Yes, something's definitely wrong. Let's go for a trip. So then we cut to Cannonball, and he has, at this point, he was with the New Mutants, and he was with X-Force and Cable, but now he's part of the X-Men, for whatever reason. He graduated for a little bit. He wanted to hang out with them instead of Cable, I guess. And he's talking with Professor Xavier, and he's trying to get some advice. Oh yeah, because of what happened with Wolverine in issue number 100. He tried to help Wolverine, couldn't. He's like, maybe I don't belong in the X-Men. Maybe I'm just not as good as I thought. Maybe I don't have what it takes. I'm just holding everyone back. You know, he's just feeling bad. And he's looking for some, like, uplifting advice. And Professor Xavier sitting in front of this fire. He's like, well, then leave. He's like, what? It's like, do you have any degree of the problems we face on a daily basis? Sentinels, evil mutants, legacy virus, paranoid humans. And it's like, and with all that, everything I have on my mind, I'm supposed to be concerned about what you're feeling, your feelings of inadequacy. And it's like, well, I thought. It's like, no, you didn't think. We have a goal, Sam. We need to save the world. There's something in that. Well, there's still a world left to be saved. If you'd rather play at being the young radical and cause a lot of sound and fury with Cable and X-Force while doing nothing of anything merit, fine, go do that. If you want to be an X-Man, if you want to stand for something more, quit your whining and get back to the job. I'm like, we won't be having this conversation again, I take it? It's like, no, sir, we won't. So Cannonball leaves, and just Professor Xavier's there by himself in the dark, you know, with everything going on, all the shit going on with Onslaught, that it's foreboding to him. He probably knows something is coming along, but he doesn't know what. He's like, get the fuck out of here. I don't have time for you. So then, Gambit and Bishop, they're investigating what happened in the water. And he's like, this would usually be fun, hanging out on this weird hovercraft, having the time of our lives. If the world didn't hate us. And he's like, yeah, but the world does hate us, and we aren't having time of our lives, so just deal with it. So they're going along, and along comes Juggernaut. He comes bursting out. That's a cool image of him coming out. Like, you see the size of him, how big Juggernaut is. And it fucks up Bishop almost right away. Gambit's still, like, jumping and kicking. He says, I don't believe we've ever met, Marco. My name is Gambit. And he throws some cards and it bounces off him like they were going to do anything to Juggernaut. It's like, that name is almost as dumb as your accent. Hey, you ain't fucking kidding, Juggernaut. How about I just call you a loser? And he flicks him with 2 fingers and hits him, and he goes bouncing through the water. And it's like, did they not make X-Men like they used to? It's like, let's hope the rest of them are better if they're going to take on something like Onslaught. So now we're in a med lab somewhere on the grounds. And let's see. There's Storm and Iceman. They're talking, and Beast is checking on Wolverine. Wolverine went through like he's in his weird animalistic nature after the events of Wolverine number 100. I mean, at least he has more of a nose now, but he's just not himself, and Wolverine's more animal than ever. But here this is actually the Dark Beast. We talked about that in the last video, where the Beast from Age of Apocalypse, who came over and is evil, switched spots with Beast, and he's now with the X-Men, but no one knows about it. They think it's just a regular Hank McCoy they've always known. And he's doing it to hide from Mr. Sinister. Let's see. And he's talking about, like, this is crazy. Like, they expected Beast to look after everybody's, like, problems medically, as well as doing tech support and medical evaluations and studying the legacy virus. So he's like, they expected a lot out of this guy. And, you know, Iceman kind of hits him on the side in a little joking manner. He says, touch me one more time and I'll kill you. And they're trying to figure out what's going on with Wolverine. Beast doesn't know. And he lets him loose. And Wolverine, like, jumps off from the restraints. He's like, and whatever. And Wolverine goes running by Storm. And she's like, I need to deal with him. I need to go help him. So she goes flying. And she runs into Cannonball, who was, like, hovering around by himself. After his talk with Xavier. And he's like, I'm concerned. We need to talk about the professor. So it cuts to Graydon Creed, who was doing a presidential, running for president. And he talks to this guy named Bastion. This weird-looking guy. He's going to be, after a while, the next threat that the X-Men have to face. He's really not important at this point. I don't ultimately remember what happens with him. Something not very interesting, I feel. But he's kind of pulling the strings with Graydon Creed here. So it goes back to the X-Mansion, and Jean and Scott live in a lake house, not in the mansion. So she's home, but she doesn't feel safe. She changed her clothes. She's having a hard time remembering her encounter with Onslaught, like he was toying with her. And then she hears something, a noise out on the porch, and there's Gambit and Bishop. Juggernaut threw their bodies down. They're okay. And he says, I could have killed them, you know that. Oh my God. Look at that amazing picture of Captain America. Isn't that so good? So there's Juggernaut. And he's like, I could have killed them, but I didn't. I want you to know that you can trust me, that I'm not here to harm you. And I need you to use your powers on me. She tries to, like, hold him, but that doesn't really work with him. I like the size difference there. And he's like, yeah, maybe you could hold me, but I'm not going to resist. We're not going to find out. Like, if I wanted to, I could break up the furniture and tear up the lawn. She's like, so why are you here? And it's like, I'm here to help. She's like, okay, we're fine, but why don't you come with the professor and me? And as soon as she says, come with the professor, he yells at her. This is like, her hair is blowing in the back. Like, I love this picture of them. It's like Beast and Belle from Beauty and the Beast, right? And he says, I got a secret of Onslaught, and I don't want to go to my stepbrother. He's the last person in the world I trust. And so she just had an encounter with Onslaught. She's like, okay, how am I supposed to trust you? And he says, well, you know my helmet protects me from your powers, so what does this tell you? He takes off his helmet in front of her, basically saying, okay, if you want to take me down, you can, but I'm trusting you not to. So it goes to Professor Xavier, and he's like looking at this monitor of X-Man, Nate Gray. And there was an issue in X-Man where Professor Xavier and him had an encounter on the astral plane, and X-Man was powerful enough to force him out of the astral plane. He's like the most powerful telepath, but he was able to force him out of like their telepathic conversation. Like, that shouldn't have happened. He's talking about, you have my eternal gratitude, because what I'm about to do, I couldn't have done without you. And then he turns it off as like he gets someone wants to enter, and he says, enter, Cyclops. Cyclops says, you wanted to see me? And this is a weird conversation they're having. He says, there's many things I've wanted you from all over the years, Scott. But in the final analysis, I think it's safe to say You've been a tremendous disappointment. As a leader, as a surrogate son, as a friend. Wouldn't you agree? He has this creepy fucking smile on. And he's, what's wrong? And he's like, he goes through all this weird emotions. He's like, stay calm. Never let your adversary know you're off balance. Don't let him shake you. Excellent. And then he goes like, scared. He's like, I need you, Scott, to be strong for me, for all of us, now more than ever. But it was a telepathic projection. And Cyclops is like, where's the professor? And Professor Xavier's like, relax, this is a test. To my favorite student, and says, as always, be prepared for anything. But that was just a fucking weird thing for Cyclops. He's like, what the fuck just happened here? Professor Xavier is acting very, very strange. So, Juggernaut and Jean Grey are going through the sewers, and now this is continuity. I think in like the next video I'm going to bring this up. I'll talk about it in the next video. Never mind. So they're like, you need to trust me, and he's like, I do, but don't ask me why, but I do. And they come up to this big fucking door, and it's like, what is that? It's a place Onslaught showed me in his mind. It's a psi-shielded chamber. It's the one place in the world where we'll finally find the answer to the question, who is Onslaught? Like, who is he, ultimately? For that answer, and the beginning of the story that will rock the Marvel Universe, don't dare miss X-Men number 54 on sale in 2 weeks, which will be the next video. And then just has this, like, Onslaught update going on in here. That's a cool image. And it talks about, like, the stuff leading up to Onslaught. Onslaught is coming. As I've kind of explained, the Juggernaut was propelled across the continent by a mysterious foe. Upon regaining consciousness, the 9 vulnerable Kane marker is terror-stricken at the thought of the assailant, a being named Onslaught. That's what happened there. And then in X-Men number 46, the Mimic disappears in Siberia after an explosive battle with X-Force. So, okay. X-Men number 46, an undercover Sentinel facility, security augmentation facility, mysteriously goes offline. When Senator Kelly investigates and restores power, there's only one word programmed in the facility's computers, Onslaught. You can see that happened in X-Men number 46 that I never looked at, but all these words on. Oh, Rusty. Jesus, dude. It goes into X-Force number 52. While investigating a Nimrod project base, Domino, Siren, and Meltdown, Boom Boom, are confronted by the Blob and Mimic, sent by an alleged employer and empowered with Nimrod technology. They are now substantially enhanced powers. The word Onslaught is gratified on the walls of the complex. In X-Men number 49, for no apparent reason, Gateway teleports Chamber, who's on Generation X, who's also a telepath, from the mansion. A few moments later, Jonathan Starsmore has returned, no worse for wear. They talked about that in X-Men number 50 with Banshee. So he's a telepath, this guy Chamber, and Gateway came and pulled him out and then threw him back in. And they're like, what was with that? And then in X-Men number 50, Gateway whisks Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, and Iceman away at the request of Post, the lowest of Onslaught's emissaries. Damn. They are tested psychically and mentally before barely managing to defeat their captor. Once safe back at the mansion, they're issued the warning, Onslaught is coming, no one can turn back the Onslaught. And you see a bunch of these, this art here. This is from an upcoming issue called X-Men Onslaught, done by Adam Kubert. And we're going to be looking at that real soon. So that's the end of this X-Men issue. Great work by Joe Mad. Great appearance by Rusty the Cat. And it's just amping up the storyline of Onslaught. So if you like this video, if you like Rusty, hit that like button for me or hit subscribe. If you're a cat lover, you pretty much see this cat in every goddamn video I do because he always has to be part of it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video on Rusty.